What's up, everybody? It's been a minute. Welcome to the debut episode of Populism and Powerbombs. That's going to take some getting used to. For those of you who know me, I used to podcast on a podcast called This Time in History. We did history, and then when the 2022 Toronto municipal elections started, I wanted to cover them, so I just started contacting candidates and started doing interviews, and a lot of stuff came out from that. I met a lot of nice people. We did some debates, and then I went away for a couple months, and I went on vacation, came back, and I wanted to start a new podcast, get away from the history, focus only on politics, mostly again municipal politics, but we did cover all three levels of Canadian politics on the municipals, which I shared with my close personal friend Philip Mills. And we did that until last year. And so I haven't been podcasting for a year. And I needed a break. Uh, to be honest with you, I think the deciding factor was that I just was tired of the um I would have to say I was tired of the subject matter. You know, when you talk about politics and you build it up, especially if you're backing a certain candidate, for example, and then the election happens and they lose, kind of messes with your mojo. And that's what happened to me. For those of you who don't know, I was, like it or not, I was not advocating, but I was pushing for Pierre Poilievre to win the federal election last year against Mark Carney, and I stand by that. It should have happened. It didn't happen. Um, and then yeah, I was so I think disengaged. I was so just I was over it. I was over it, and I just got tired of the subject matter. And there are a couple other projects I wanted to work on, and so Philip and I made the difficult decision to end the municipals. So now we come to this podcast, Populism and Power Bombs. And you're probably wondering, well, what's this about? So this is my own show. It's going to be live on YouTube. I'm going to have to play with the dates. Originally it was supposed to be every Tuesday, but I'll let you guys know. So what's going to happen is I'm going to do the show live. Philip, I mean, he'll join me from time to time, but basically, this is going to be my own thing for two reasons. One, Philip we're coming up on the 2026 Toronto municipal election, and I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag by telling you that Philip Mills is most likely going to run in his ward, Scarborough Southwest, and let's hope he wins, because let me tell you about Philip for a second. He's a lefty and I'm supposed to be the righty, and that's what made the municipals so great. But what happened is, he is the nicest guy that you could ever want to work with. He actually will work with people he disagrees with. And that's it. And that's the best quality that a civil servant, or elected or not, could possess. The ability to work with. So you hear all the time, all these people, even the elected councillors. I'm not going to throw anyone specifically under the bus, but I can work with them. I can work with them. And then no work gets done. And that happens on all three levels of government, all over the world, not just in Canada. It happens everywhere. Philip is actually a person who, even if he disagrees with you, will sit down and work with you. And he's the greatest co-host I've ever had. And he is someone who deserves to be in government. So I hope nothing but the best for him. He'll be on the show when I because I'm going to start doing interviews again. Because once again, we are coming up on the 2026 municipal election. So, the populism part of this podcast is going to be about politics, heavy on the municipal politics. I'm going to try to stay away from the federal scene unless I'm really pissed off about something, because to be honest with you, I I can't stand Mark Carney. I'm sorry, I just can't. And I would prefer, obviously, someone like Pierre Poilievre to be the prime minister. It's just my personal opinion. And now, before you accuse me of being one of those ones, no, I'm not. I'm actually, I've done a lot of thinking. I thought I was a conservative, and then I thought I was maybe center. I was never a lefty. Um, but I still consider myself a conservative, but I'm the conservative who will call out other shitty conservatives, or shitty conservatives, uh, such as my m- not my buddy, but someone I look up to, and he's a great guy. Jim Cornette likes to call Donald Trump President Pig Shit, and you know what? I can't think of a better name for him. So if you ever hear me say it, I apologize to Jim. I love that name, so that's what we're gonna call him. We're gonna call him President Pig Shit. The power bombs portion of this podcast is going to be for wrestling. Some with this time in history, and a little bit with the municipals, I tried to integrate some wrestling. I love wrestling. I have since I was 9 or 10 years old. Uh, I remember very clearly. My stepdad brought me into the living room, and he had wrestling on, and he put me in front of the TV, and he said, "Here, watch this." And I can't remember which match I saw first, because I don't remember. I haven't seen it since I was a kid. WrestleMania 9 is what I'm talking about. So, I can't remember which match came on first, but I was enthralled. There were 3 obviously, I know the Bret Hart Yokozuna match was last, but I don't remember which match was first between Shawn Michaels and Tatanka, or, um, Money Inc., which was Ted DiBiase and IRS, versus Hogan, and I believe it was Beefcake. And I just remember being so enthralled, so mesmerized at the wrestling. I can't even really. I'm trying to think of the words right now, and I can't explain it. I just, yeah, it was just, I was sold, taken, done. Um, you know, and my mom tried to get me to try to ban wrestling in the house, and I would sneak it when I could. And you know, that's I, I love wrestling. I've been watching wrestling now for over 30 years. You know how you have a group of friends, and then gradually they had all stopped watching wrestling? Well, I was the last one out of any friend group I was a part of that stopped watching wrestling. I just I love it. Watched it, especially when it became more accessible. And now that it's on Netflix in Canada, it's accessible. It's all in one place. Hell, the only thing we don't get is Saturday night's main event. We get everything else, all the pay-per-views. We get Raw, we get SmackDown, we get NXT, all on Netflix. Unfortunately, they haven't given us very much of the library. Hopefully that changes. I mean, we have all the pay-per-view library. It's all there, all of it. And as far as Raw and SmackDown, the libraries, they're spotty at best. Um, I was a huge Bret Hart fan in the 90s, and then Steve Austin came out of nowhere with his middle fingers, and I was sold. Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was I liked him, but I honestly, I never liked The Rock. Um Steve Austin was it for me. Um so with that being said, uh this is what the podcast is going to be about. And so May the 1st coming up, is going to be registration for uh, well, all of Ontario basically have their municipal elections. It's kind of like in the states, you guys have your midterms in November. The actual the election period where people go door to door and they have you know speaking engagements and stuff like that. That happens between May and right up until election day in here in Canada or in Ontario specifically. So that's what happens. And so when people start registering, the only parts of these podcasts that are not going to be live are the interviews. I am going to I'll pre-record them and then I'll release them as standalone ones. And I mean, we Philip and I talked to a lot of candidates over the life of well, I did it for this time in history and for the municipals. We've spoken to Josh Matlow, city councilor. We've spoken to Anthony Peruza, city councilor. We've spoken with Anna Bailau, who ran in the mayoral race. We've spoken with, you know what? I don't have the list in front of me, but it's a lot of names. Uh, we were pretty good. That's what I think, and hopefully, all of the candidates will agree to an interview. Um, I'm a pretty nice guy. I do have questions, and I'll ask them, and if they don't want to answer them, that's fine too. But I think the public deserves to know the truth and what it's going to take to fix the city and stop messing around with the issues. Why are we pouring money into changing names of subway stations, possibly the name of Dundas Street, because someone is offended by the name Dundas? So then, if that's successful, what's next? Wellington, King, Queen, Young? Where does it end? Where is the line drawn? I will get into that. We are having so many problems with our public transit here in Toronto called the TTC. We are having so many issues with it, whether it's an oil spill, maintenance, the lines are down, but we have money to change uh, station names and rename the Young Dundas Square as Sankofa Square because somebody was offended. So if somebody comes along and says, I'm offended by the name Toronto, you must change it. Are we going to change it? I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm doing that on purpose. It's ridiculous. You know, I would, you want to debate Henry Davis or Henry Dundas to me, let's do it. But so those are the kinds of things you can look forward to. Uh, I'm going to be blunt and I'm going to be honest. I want this city to work, to be back the way it was. Now, you guys may think that I have a blind spot where Rob Ford is concerned. I understand that people didn't like him. I understand people didn't like him because he closed the purse strings, all the special interest projects that all the counselors were working on at the time, closed it up, eliminated a lot of the waste. Like him or not, that's what he did. People want to focus on his drug issues. Listen, with all the stress that he was under, I'm 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 not surprised. No, I don't condone it, but I still think he was a good mayor. And I do believe that if he was healthy enough to run in 2014, he would have run and he would have gotten elected. And we would have never had a mayor Tory who ruined the city. And now Olivia Chow is continuing with that, always focusing on who's to blame for the problem instead of fixing the problem. Who gives a fuck? Who cares whose fault it is? Let's fix it. so it works. We're going to waste all this time trying to blame whose fault it is for the oil spills and for the shutdowns on the TDC. And as long as you assign the blame, your job is done. But no, that's not how it works. Let's fix the problem. We can worry about the blame later. Let's fix the problem. Let's fix the problem of our shelter system that is overrun. It was overrun when I started this podcast, not this podcast, but this time in history and the municipals years ago. It was overrun then. So it's even worse now. And any mayoral candidate, I will say this, any mayoral candidate who in their plan says, I'm going to go to the federal government and ask for money, that's not a plan. That is I'm going to beg for money because there's nothing else to do. The only thing that the federal government needs to pony up for is the money for the shelter, because they're the ones that control the immigration laws in this country. You want to open the borders? No problem. Open them, because we can't convince you otherwise. So yeah, they're open. That's great. Now you have to pay for it. The federal government is the government that has to pay for the sheltering of new immigrants, not the municipal government. So there's that. And I can't wait to talk to more candidates as they register. And yeah, I as we go towards election day, which is in October, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but it's in October of this year. It's one of the longest runs. I don't know how it works in the States when registration day actually is to the time between registration day and election day. I find in Toronto specifically, we've got one of the largest. Anyway, let's move on to the power bombs portion of this podcast. I want to talk about wrestling. WrestleMania happened this past weekend, and I've seen a lot of people, they want to shit on it. They want to say, oh, it sucked. You know, there's not enough wrestling. There's not enough this. There's not enough that. It was too simple. Not enough story. Too much story. You get it anywhere you want. So I'll say this. Well, it wasn't the greatest WrestleMania of all time. It was okay. It was decent. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought a few things were, and we're going to go through the stuff. I thought a few things were off. I didn't understand, and we're going to go through it. So we'll start with night one. You know, Cena came out and he gave the Raw speech, which, I mean, that's what he does now. That's what he always did. It is what it is. And then match number one was the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, and LA Knight versus IShowSpeed, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory. In my opinion, it was a good opening match. One, not a great match, but it was a good one. The Usos did win. And then in the aftermatch, we had Logan Paul turn on IShowSpeed, and a great WrestleMania moment where IShowSpeed leaps off the top rope and splashes Logan Paul through the announce table. I thought it was a great spot. It's a good moment. And that's I mean, that's that's what we're doing right here now, right? It's all about moments. Next up, it was Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu in the unsanctioned match. It was great spots. That's what I thought. But I think the thing that might have taken people out of it was that they knew that Fatu was going to win. Because I think Drew's going away to film something after Mania. So he's going to be away. We don't know how long. So we knew Fatu was going to win. I don't like that. Listen, you hear people, you know, before an event, whether it's a WWE event, an AEW event, and they'll tell you either this person is going to win and this is why, and there's no wrestling reason. It's just that's what's going to happen, and it ruins it for me. It kind of takes it out of it for me. So he did the moonsault through the table for the win. and he won. Um, and it was to set him up because we're gonna cover the Raw after Mania as well, but it's to set him up, and you'll see why. So then we move on to the Fatal Four Way Women's Tag Belts, and um, leading up to this match, this event, you always saw when they would interact with each other, Raw or SmackDown, you saw um, Nia Jax and you saw Lash Legend and you saw Charlotte and Alexa and you saw Bailey and Lyra, but you never saw the Bellas. And then we heard in the final week, oh, Nikki's injured. She's rehabbing an injury. What's going to happen? Are they going to put the Kabuki Warriors in? Is it going to be? Are the Bellas going to make it, or is they just going to make it a triple threat? What's going to happen? And then we find out after all that Nikki wasn't cleared to wrestle, and lo and behold, they called in a friend, and Paige walks through the door, and I remember being so excited when Paige debuted because I loved her. She's great. She looks awesome. She looks way better than she did in AEW. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. She's taking better care of herself, I guess. She's in better shape and they're letting her wrestle. So obviously she got medically cleared for real, not AEW medically cleared. I'm sorry, there's a difference. Um, so I I was trying to look for what might happen. I started sensing there might be a turn between Alexa and Charlotte because usually when they come out, Charlotte comes out first, and then Alexa comes out, and they do the heart thing, each one of their hands, and they form a heart, kind of like that in the aisleway. Well, that didn't happen because first of all, Alexa Bliss came out first, and then Charlotte came out, and they didn't do the heart thing. I'm like, is something happening here? But came out in like Michael Myers themed painted masks, but apparently they were paying tribute to Demolition, who went in the Hall of Fame the night before. And also AJ Styles went in the Hall of Fame, and Psycho Sid or Sid Vicious is Justice, whatever you call him. And also I'm forgetting someone. Stephanie McMahon went in the Hall of Fame, which is she's the second McMahon to go in the Hall of Fame. I'm still waiting on Shane and Vince. And let me just stop and say this now, because this is going to come up when we talk about AEW in a little bit. You can hate Vince McMahon all you want, and a lot of people do. And I honestly think that he's not a great person. But you don't get any of this. You don't get AEW because there's no expansion, there's no nothing. You don't get any of it without Vince. And that's just the truth. Like him or hate him. Uh, you know, okay. So, like I said, Nikki Bella was not cleared. They introduced Paige to tag with Brie, and a place goes nuts. That was a big pop. I noticed that too. And lo and behold, Paige wins the match with her finisher, the Rampage, and it was a even bigger pop. Now her and Brie are the women's tag team champions. Great. Next up is Becky versus AJ Lee for the women's intercontinental title. Becky uses the exposed turnbuckle after distracting the referee to win the match and the IC title. And I wrote that it's possible that AJ could challenge for the world title if Morgan wins. But I think AJ Lee might be actually going away for a while. Maybe she has other projects to work on. I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to wait to see what happens. Next up was Gunther versus Rollins, Seth Rollins. Let me see here. In my notes, I have it was a good match. was a decent match. Um, Braun comes out of nowhere and absolutely spears the shit out of Rollins. Not once, I think he did it twice. That's a long runway too. WrestleMania is always the longest runways, and oh my god, it was the second one. I don't think he got all of it. I think he if he did get all of it, he might have he might have killed Rollins. So he had to go to the side or something. I'm not sure, but they were amazing spears. He's for real. He's for real. You're looking at a future world champion. I can't wait to see when you do Oba versus Braun. I wanted to see Brock versus Braun, but we'll get to that. Um, anyway, yeah. So Gunther wins after applying the sleeper. Um, but oh yeah, sorry. So I'm trying to read my notes and talk to you guys. It's different being live, being edited. But yeah, so I was saying before, comes out of nowhere and spears Rollins after Rollins stomped Gunther on the announce table, and then Gunther won after applying the sleeper, taking advantage of the spear. Next up, Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vecchia for the women's world title. I was disappointed with this match. I felt like each each woman could have done better. I don't know if one of them was sick. I know that Liv was still sporting the bruises because we saw them. Uh, yeah, I don't know what happened. Did they just it weren't meshing well? So Morgan won with help from Raquel and Roxanne, and she's the new champion. Then John Cena comes back out and announces the attendance, which is 50,816 fans. And then all of a sudden, Bianca Belair's music starts playing and she comes out. And she's wearing some ridiculous costume. And then when she takes it off, she reveals that she's pregnant and because she's got a baby bump. So I don't know if her fingers completely healed. I guess she'll have more time to figure that out while she's having a baby. And by the way, I want to say congrats because I saw a picture of Jimmy and Naomi's baby. So the baby's born. So I don't know how much longer. Maybe I don't know. Maybe by SummerSlam or at least by the Royal Rumble next year, Naomi will be back. So that'll be good. I'm all for that. She was on a good run. Okay, what's up next? Next up was the main event for night one. Cody versus Randy for the WWE title. Uh, with Pat McAfee, of course, because he had to be in there to fuck everything up. This is the match that didn't make any sense to me, and we're going to talk about this. So, right at the bell, actually before the bell, McAfee attacks Cody at the start with a microphone shot to the head, and he starts stomping him, and so I understood that part, whatever, and then the match starts. Cody's getting booed by the crowd. And the crowd was almost solidly behind Orton, which was weird. And then uh, Cody took out McAfee, and McAfee was stretchered out. And then the match went on, and it kept going and going. And there was a spot in the match where Cody thumbed Orton in the eye. And then the referee was checking on Orton, and I guess he thought it was Cody, and he RKO'd him. So the ref is out. And then I'm not sure what happened after that. I think anyway, Cody was down, and then out runs Pat McAfee in a ref shirt and a neck brace, and he goes to count the three, and he counts it like a normal ref would: 1, 2, and then Cody kicks out, so he doesn't count the three. I don't understand why he didn't fast count him 1, 2, 3, or try the fast count, and then Cody would have had to kick out sooner. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get that. And then it gets even worse. A couple minutes after that, Randy RKO's McAfee. Why? I don't understand what that was about. It makes no sense to me. But then right after that, Cody gives Randy the crossroads and wins the match to retain his belt. That is the end of night one. Do not understand what happened. I don't know if signals got crossed. I don't know if that was the actual plan or the plan was changed midway. I have no idea. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Going forward, watching SmackDown will maybe answer some questions. Night two. We start off with Oba and Brock. It was a great short match, and Oba won after surviving the F5. And he celebrated and then left the ring. And Lesnar was there sitting, and he started taking off his gear, and he's crying. And he took off his boots. He took off his gloves and his boots. And in wrestling language, that's retiring. That's what you do when you retire. You leave your boots and your gloves in the ring. You can again, the same thing with Vince McMahon. You can like or hate Brock Lesnar. That's fine. You cannot deny his impact to the sport of professional wrestling. He was the one. I know Roman did it as well, beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. But he was the one who beat The Undertaker first. He broke the streak. He also beat Randy Couture for the UFC heavyweight title. So he's, I think Michael Cole said it correctly. He's the greatest combat sports athlete in history. Prove me wrong. And by the way, if you guys don't get your comments in during the live, send them to me afterwards. If you attach them here, I'll get them. You can follow me on Twitter at MatthewKing511. That's where I'm at. There'll be a little picture of me in a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey, surrounded by all my Marvel women. That's something that I paid to get done. Let me see here. Okay, so again, I think we were all thinking he was going to stick around until SummerSlam. And because SummerSlam is in Minneapolis, his hometown, even though he lives in Saskatchewan. I'll miss him. I don't care what people think of him. I make up my own mind. I will miss him. It's not going to be the same without him. But I understand. I knew he was more towards the end of his career than in the middle or in the beginning. I understood that. I just don't like it. Next up is probably the match that, if you're an AEW fan, you like the most. It's the six-pack ladder match for the Intercontinental title. Rusev versus Javon Evans versus Penta versus Dragon Lee versus JD McDonough versus Rey Mysterio. I have no idea why Rey Mysterio was in this match. He was supposed to wrestle Gunther. He was injured. That's why Gunther got paired with Rollins. I know that Rey Mysterio also wants his last match to be with Dominic. Whatever. Penta retained like I thought he would. He had just won the title. That's why I thought he was going to retain. It was an okay match. It was a lot of stunts. That's why I think that if you're an AEW fan, you would like this match. It's a good showing, too, I noticed, for Dragon Lee and Javon Evans. They had really good showings. I actually thought They may put the belt on, Javon Evans, but I think maybe it's eventually what's going to happen, but again, Penta had just won the title, so maybe not yet. Next up was Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams for the US title. Sami was getting booed heavily. It's weird, kinda like when Cody was getting booed. Sammy's getting booed. I don't understand. And then, Sammy didn't do himself any favors when he attacked, Lil Yachty, who's a rapper who came out with Trick Williams, and, Trick he scored the pin on Sami Zayn and won the US title. Bang. I, I guess I knew this was gonna happen. They were building up Trick Williams, and I guess it didn't matter who was gonna fight him, he was gonna win the belt. I don't know why they took it off Carmelo just to put it on Trick. Carmelo versus Trick Williams would have been a good match too, in my opinion. Okay, so next up we have the street fight. Dominic Mysterio versus the Demon Finn Balor. This was a great match. And I've been down on Finn Balor for a long time. I usually guilty as charged. I fast forward his matches. I do. This one I watched because it's the Demon, and I thought maybe that was an old tired gimmick. I was wrong. There's still an aura with the Demon. It can't explain it. It's something you feel when you're watching it. You know, for me personally, if I feel something, I'm going to remember that. It's going to help me remember. I can't tell you the last 3 matches that Darby Allin has had. 1, because I probably didn't watch them, and 2, because I don't care, because it doesn't make me feel anything. But I can tell you every feud, every match, sorry, every pay-per-view match that Steve Austin had in his run in the Attitude Era, because I watched it and I felt it, and it was amazing. And yeah, I don't mean to keep going back and comparing the Attitude Era, but it was a great time for professional wrestling. Everybody benefited. But more on that in a bit. Let's finish up with this WrestleMania review. So next up was Jade versus Rhea for the WWE Women's Championship. And again, this was better than Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vicker. This was better, but not by much. I think there was you'd have to watch the match. There was something going on, in my opinion. So in my notes, I've wrote, I'm not sure if Rhea is performing a song or wrestling in a match, because when she came out to the ramp and stuff, she always sings her lyrics. You can always see her mouth moving, and you can see her lyrics. She's repeating her lyrics. And this time was different, though, because she didn't even acknowledge Jade until she got in the ring. It was like she was singing to the fans, even when she got on the apron. Once she stepped through the ropes, then she acknowledged Jade. But that was weird to me. Maybe her head's not in it. Maybe she knows she's not winning, so fuck it. I don't know. So Io ended up saving Rhea with help by helping her battle Michin and B-Fab, and got rid of them. And Rhea won the title from Jade, and she's the new women's champion, which means Rhea Ripley will be moving to SmackDown. And we'll get into a little bit of Raw after WrestleMania, but that means that Io and Rhea will be on different shows. Next up, John Cena came out and he announced the attendance, 55,255 for a total of 106,072 for both days. And generally I'm not a comedy wrestling guy, but I thought the little bit with Danhausen and John Cena and The Miz and Kit Wilson was great. I loved it. Um, it was funny. Sometimes you just gotta laugh, you know? And then, the final match of the night, the main event of WrestleMania, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight title. And I wrote, quite possibly one of the greatest matches I've ever seen from bell to bell. It saved WrestleMania. Absolutely, it did. Um, they told a story inside the match. Every move meant something. Every every move built to something else. And that's what I'm talking about. Or that's what I will be talking about when I talk about what's wrong with AEW. Go back and look and watch this match and you'll understand it. And if you don't, I'll explain it to you. Anyway, Roman Reigns wins the match and becomes the new world heavyweight champion. And that's the end of WrestleMania. That's the end of this review. So then we go to the Raw after WrestleMania, and we saw the debuts of Sol Ruca on Raw. We saw the debut of Ethan Page on Raw. They had good matches. And, I think Zarya is going to be on Raw too because she popped up and she cost Sol Ruca her match. Ethan Page won his match. So we will see what happens. But it looks like Roman Reigns is trying to get the bloodline together with Jimmy and Jay. But then Jacob Fatu came out and he said he doesn't want the title. He needs the title. So we'll see what happens with that. I thought he was on SmackDown. I don't know why Jacob Fatu showed up on Raw. I thought Jacob Fatu was on SmackDown. Anyway, we'll figure that out for another time. Also, the other thing that happened on the Raw after WrestleMania was the strange little CM Punk Cody promo. I think WWE might be testing the waters. Maybe for SummerSlam, we're going to get CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes for the belt, which I would be very interested in that. I've wanted that match since they were both back in the company. I actually thought we were going to get that match, but Cody had to finish his story first, and Punk got injured, so that's why that didn't happen. Anyway. Let's talk about part one. This is going to be an ongoing series because I can't sit here for 4 hours and explain it all. So we'll break this up into parts. Part one is why AEW will not succeed past what they are and why they will not grow. Well, the short answer is they will not succeed or grow past what they are because of who owns it. Tony Khan, TK. He's a fan. And nothing against him. And for the AEW haters out there, let me stop you now. Because I don't hate AEW. I think that having a secondary place to go and wrestle is a good thing. It is. It was a great thing in the 90s. WCW. I don't think I've told people this, but I'm one of the last people that ever knew about the NWO because I was such a hardcore WWE fan. I only watched WWE, WWF at the time. I only watched that. That was it. That's what I watched. And when Hall and Nash left, I knew they were going to WCW, but I wasn't going to watch because why would I? It's going to give them ratings. So I didn't know what the this meant. I wasn't. It just it wasn't for me. So I think I found out about the NWO when Hogan regained the belt. I think that was in August. And before that, I didn't know because I didn't care because I don't whatever. I was geez, in '90s, I was 13, so there's only so many hours in the day. I was busy being a kid. Anyway, so having a second place for wrestlers to wrestle is a great thing. The problem is the ownership structure and how you run it. First things first, the salaries. It is great that wrestlers are making money. They, nobody should work for free, obviously. But you can't the reason that they make more money, this is before merch, before anything, just the salary. The reason they make more money in AEW is because that's all TK has to offer. Because I've said this before online and people don't want to hear it, but guess what? This is my show. And if you're listening, you have no choice but hear me. Tony Khan cannot book. He cannot lay out a match. He cannot lay out a feud. And the greatest moments of AEW are the ones that have nothing to do with Tony Khan. I'm talking about MJF's feud with, let's start with CM Punk. MJF's feud with Wardlow. I'm guessing, and I don't know for sure, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Anything, politics or wrestling, populism or power bombs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me when I'm telling lies, as CM Punk likes to say. I just I don't think TK has much to do with this what I think are the successful parts of AEW. And when he thinks AEW has had success, like recently, oh, the ratings are up. Oh, yeah, well, it's me. I did it. I stopped running a writing committee. I don't run a he just threw them all under the bus. If I was RJ City, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing, bruh? RJ City, Will Washington, even the woman, what's her name? Jennifer Pepper. I don't know what her name is. The writer for Sasha Banks, for Mercedes Monet, whatever her name is. They've been helping write the show. And now Tony Khan is like, well, no, I'm just going to write it. And I'm not going to do a committee anymore. So does that mean that they've been sent to Guantanamo Bay? That they're not going to, they're just going to get paid? So going back to what I was saying before, all he can offer the wrestlers is more money. And he has to, because when you come into AEW, the creative is shit. You don't there are periods where you don't get TV time, and that's it. And unless you're willing to do the fucking death match style bullshit that they do in AEW to death, then you're not figured in. Perfect example, Bobby Lashley. Great wrestler. He's a massive person. He's like he's like he could be their Brock Lesnar because he's fought Brock Lesnar in the WWE and nothing. He's been off TV. He just recently came back. They still have him tag teaming. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't understand it. I don't get it. He should be world champion. He should be in the world champion. He's never even had a world championship opportunity. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. Swerve Strickland. Here's a perfect opportunity. He's one of the ones that cashed in and got more money from Tony Khan. He's only a big deal because he's in AEW. I think if he was in WWE, he wouldn't be that big of a deal. That's and I know that you guys like Kenny Omega. He's the I'm not gonna call him the god of professional wrestling because he's just not. Can can we remember that he has wrestled blow up dolls and sex dolls? And if you guys find that entertaining, I don't know what else to say to you. There are videos. Go and look it up. You'll find it. And when so I listen to a lot of people discuss professional wrestling. I'm all over the place with this AEW stuff. I'm sorry. And they say, "Well, this would be great if this is the route they're going." Or no, I don't want to see them go that route. Tony Khan books day of the show. Uh, because how do you follow the booking? Let's talk about what recently happened. His creative decision to quote unquote steal the headlines from WrestleMania, which didn't work, by the way, and crown Darby Allin as the new AEW World Champion, which was completely ridiculous. MJF is the guy. Now that Cody's gone, CM Punk is gone, you're not doing anything with Bobby Lashley. MJF is your guy. He is your stud. He's the diamond in the rough. He is the man. And AEW is only going to go as far as he can take them. Now, when you diminish him like you did, you not only did you take the belt off of him, which I could understand if it was anybody else, but you squashed him. So 140-pound, scrawny, crash test dummy wrestler with the weirdest charisma I've ever seen in my life squashes your what is he 240-pound multi-time world champion and movie star. Explain that to me. Make it make sense. Anything? It doesn't make any fucking sense. You know, and let's go back to the salaries for a second because I want to make sure I make this point. Again, I'm all over the place. I'm trying not to be, but it is what it is. Let's not forget where TK came from. Tony Khan, whose dad is Shad Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. He owns the Fulham Soccer Club. He owns a patent for the car bumper, which makes him a multi-money to start AEW. He also gave him a open checkbook. Let's go back to the 90s for a minute. Vince was only successful because he was never friends with the talent. I mean, Hogan, sure. And he needed to make money. If he didn't make money, he would have been broke and gone, and we wouldn't be talking about him today or any of the past 20 years. He would have been broken, gone, and done. If ratings didn't mean anything, I mean, the point of professional wrestling is to garner ratings and sell tickets, pay-per-view buys, and merchandise. And you had to do that in WWE, WWF, or they would have been out of business. Same for WCW. TK doesn't need to do that because his father's rich and has given him a blank checkbook for AEW. He doesn't need to turn a profit. He can run this shit. When Warner Brothers sold to Paramount, once that sale goes through, I think they're going to yank AEW Dynamite off of TV. But we'll see what happens. I think that if that does happen, I mean, it's It's YouTube. Dynamite's going to go to YouTube unless, and I said this. I said, well, TK should have just bought Warner Brothers, and boom, and then he'd have his own. The only way that a Dynamite is going to survive past 2027 is if TK owns his own network. That way he can put Dynamite on there because it's listen. It's great that people have jobs. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying he ain't running it like a business. He doesn't care about selling tickets, about selling merchandise, about ratings. He don't care about any of that stuff. He's getting to book his fantasy federation in real life. But the problem is he's dealing with real people, real athletes, real emotions, and he doesn't understand any of that. So that's part of the problem, and I'm gonna get into it deeper uh, in the coming weeks because I will say this, and I think we'll end here. AEW, when it is over, whenever that is, needs to be studied as one of the worst, poorly run businesses in sports or entertainment. The fact that the stuff that has happened has been allowed to go on and nobody suffers any consequences. Jungle Jack at All In got away with what he got away with. And then we have, what happened with the Bucks and Omega at the previous I believe it was All Out. Like and TK is just gonna, as Jim Cornette famously said, he's just gonna play the fiddle while his Rome burns. Or I believe he read an article. Somebody wrote that, and it was from PW Insider. And basically, yeah, that's what's gonna happen. And we'll go from there. So, I want to thank everyone for joining me on this new episode, this new podcast that I'm starting from scratch. And I hope you will join me on this ride. Again, it's going to be the plan was to have it every Tuesday, but probably going to have it now. I'm going to have to switch to Wednesday going forward. After next week, it'll be Wednesday. So, and it'll be like that for a while, family commitments and stuff. So it'll be Wednesdays. I like during the day because it just, that I can get it out and then watch people uh, cultivate towards it. We're going to cover more on politics, more on wrestling. There's just going to be more of everything. I will do reviews of shows. I will watch AEW when I can. And we'll go on this journey together, and that's just the way it's going to be. And so I want to thank you guys for watching, even though, if you haven't seen this yet and you're watching it after the fact, that's good too. Drop me drop me a like or a comment. I would really appreciate that. And we'll go from there. And again, thank you guys so much for joining in, and we'll see you next time.